On this week's show, I am discussing The Last of Us multiplayer cancelled at the 11th hour, potentially a new Uncharted game on the way, the Xbox Showcase summer reveal has finally happened, and of course, Disney wouldn't be Disney without looking to buy someone new, Epic this time round. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to your weekly gaming podcast, the GamerGuild Podcast, where I get together, usually with someone else, to talk about all the week's video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Just search for the GamerGuild Podcast or GamerGuild TV and you will find us there every Monday, 8 a.m. when this show goes live. Your podcast players are for the week, once again, myself soloing it. Is it even a podcast when it's just one person talking, or is it a news breakdown? Is it a speech? Is it a monologue? Who knows? But thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, like the video, subscribe, ring that bell so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here, like this very show, like our weekly live streams, everything else in between, because we do quite a lot. This past week, we have our Resident Evil Requiem playthrough. It's continuing. Leon Kennedy, Grace Ashcroft are continuing their spooky journey. I believe part 6 is available to the public now. Part 7 will be going up live this Thursday, but if you are a guild hero, you get it an extra week early, so don't forget to check that out too. If you are a fan of retro nostalgia content here on the channel, we also have my PlayStation Retro Hunt, where I dive back into the shelf behind me and look for a PlayStation classic title that isn't currently part of my collection, but I'm going to hunt it down in the world of eBay and online shopping to find a black label copy. And this week, guild members have it for Blade, but there's plenty of ones on there: Crash Bandicoot, Tomb Raider. Go have a look, go check it out. There's something for everyone here on GamerGuild TV. What I've been playing, we like to start every single show with what we've been playing right here. And this past week, I've been digging something new. I tried to fight the temptation. I didn't want to do it. But the reality is, South of Midnight came out on PlayStation 5. I was holding out for a physical copy. I really was. I enjoyed that game so much last time around on Xbox when it played it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Really wanted to get the physical copy to have it on my collection in a month where Starfield is also launching physical, and I've got my order of Hi-Fi Rush physical on from Limited Run Games. I was holding out, and the game dropped at a perfect time when I wasn't playing anything big, and I thought, you know what, I'll go check it out again. I had a look in the storefront and it was marked down at $34.99, which I do believe is a fantastic price for this game. You'll probably be able to complete it in maybe 10 to 12 hours. It's not too long of a game, but I know a lot of people in our Discord have been talking about it, and it's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And the art style of it is unique and fantastic. It's very much got that Into the Spider-Verse stop motion animation elements to it, which I really appreciate. It's got a really good character-driven story throughout. The music is sublime throughout it, especially when you get to some of the boss encounters or the exploration encounters. They really weave, for lack of a better pun, into the story. That loads of mythology from kind of deep South American folklore. Think giant alligators, catfish, and everything else in between. Really good story. Combat is quite simplistic, but I still found it quite fun all the same. Lots of puzzle platforming mechanics, and just all in all, really enjoyed it. I dived into this one pretty much at the start of the week. I've just started some annual leave at work, so actually having a bit more dedicated time to just jump into something in the later hours of the night, a couple of sleep-ins and stuff always benefit. But I've pretty much almost got the platinum for this game. It was a run of get all the collectibles. A couple of awkward trophies come in the guise of the boss fights. That was the only thing I would say was a little bit complicated. You have to defeat certain bosses without taking any damage, and some of them have quite a few kind of phases, typical kind of Dark Souls-esque, like 1, 2, 3 phases, and not getting hit throughout the whole thing, even on the easiest difficulty, can be quite troublesome. But all in all, I'd say I've probably got about maybe 2 to 3 hours to get the platinum, and it's a case of just get all the last collectibles, max up all my upgrades tree, max up my health skill tree, and just really enjoyed it. If you've not checked it out, it's from Compulsion, who've done like We Happy Few and stuff in the past. It's certainly, I would say, a smaller Xbox title, but I really hope we do get a sequel. I have to commend Xbox for the last couple of years for really doubling down on some new IP and I guess some reboots in a way. And we're going to be talking about that later in today's show because we do have, of course, an Xbox showcase to talk about. But yeah, South of Midnight, it's out now on Nintendo Switch 2. It probably runs great on Nintendo Switch 2 as well, quite frankly. It ran great for me on the Xbox Series S. And it runs fantastic on my PlayStation 5. My base PlayStation 5, which, as of the time this show now goes live, costs a lot more money thanks to this week's price rises from Sony, indeed. But that's what I've been playing. I don't know what Richie's been playing. I'm going to guess more Fallout, but unfortunately, I should clarify. We've had Easter weekend here in the UK. Most of the world has had Easter weekend, so we've had kind of like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and yeah, family plans, stuff getting in the way, work clashes, and other stuff just meant we couldn't really nail down a time. We tried to get Tom in. He's gone to China to see family, so that was off the table. He wasn't going to call in from there. And Rob's busy with wedding planning, so he's got dresses to go try on, folks. He's got dresses to go try on. So yes, you are stuck with me for a solo episode, which I know seems to be a common trend cropping up on the channel at the moment. I know I did a Amazon Luna video last week, so if you're into Amazon Luna, they dropped a cloud gaming update for us for the month of April, and quite a big game. If you're an Amazon Prime member, EA Sports FC 26 actually just dropped for free, so that's this year's iteration of FIFA, for lack of a better description, is available now, which is actually quite a good news story for me, because I haven't bought a new FIFA game since EA Sports FC 24, to give it its full title. I don't know why I said that. FC 24, but I keep saying on the podcast, I keep going back and doing my career campaign mode. So I don't really see a need to invest and buy the new game when I'm only going to play career mode anyway. So I get a couple of years use out of it. I did buy FC 25 on the Switch 2. Ran so poorly. Really, really disappointed with that one. So I'm reluctant to buy another copy of it on Nintendo platforms. But yeah, seeing FC 26 drop just before a World Cup year with the ability to play it on any device I own in the cloud, fantastic. Pausing for a drink. Sorry, audio listeners. Usually I would throw it over to Richie or my co-host throughout the podcast to have a big drink for talking for quite some time. But alas, he'll be back next week, and our regularly scheduled content will continue. As I mentioned, Resident Evil Requiem is still up on the channel, and everything else in between, like the Luna videos. So go check it out. Let me know in the comments below how you're finding Amazon Luna at the moment. Is the library doing enough for you? Is FC 26 a big enough pull? Is it a good get, or is it a last-ditch attempt to try and get some bigger titles in there to compete with the grander scheme of things that are out there? I think I lament in the video a little bit everything else we are playing, the likes of some Fallout titles, which, to its credit, Amazon Luna does have Fallout Vegas and Fallout 3, I want to say, but it doesn't have everything you want. It doesn't have South of Midnight coming to it. It doesn't have all the games we're going to talk about in the months to come. But we do have a busy week for news, and we can't get into all that until we ring the title, which is the graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka the news. And let's get into the news, folks, by celebrating our wonderful guild heroes, the fantastic members who support the channel that extra little bit further, just like you can from as little as 99p. You get access to our content early, like the previously mentioned Resident Evil Requiem, my PlayStation Retro Hunt. Anything else we put out on the channel tends to go to members as early as we can possibly get it, just like this very podcast. It goes out usually on a Friday evening, Saturday morning, if we can get recording locked down. This one will probably go out on Sunday, so a little bit behind this week, but it's going to happen when it's me doing everything this week, recording, scripting, dialogue, thumbnails, scheduling, and everything else in between, like timestamps. But I do appreciate you guild heroes out there, the fantastic people who do support me and Richie and friends bring together the great content. Let us know how it's going. Let us know how you want it to evolve. I'm toying with the idea, honestly, of doing some, and I don't want to say it too out loud, but AI-generated content. And I hope that doesn't offend your ears out there. But I was talking to my brother, and he's been doing some content with the channel, and I think the biggest issue we have on the channel with trying to crack the algorithms, we do a lot of long-form content. Most of our videos are 1.5 hours plus. This one won't be, I can assure you that right now. But yeah, usually an hour and a half plus, and what that tends to mean is that we get out the loop of the algorithm. Everyone likes shorts, everyone likes short, bite-sized clips, TikTok style, Snapchat style, that kind of thing. And because we get left out the algorithm, it's hard to bring in new audiences. So what I was scoping doing is kind of gaming retro content sprinkled throughout the week. So you don't need to watch it. I don't expect our long-term fans to really check it out and watch it. But just to see if I can pull together some videos that take no additional work on my part, but try and drive engagement for the channel. If you've had any prior experience out there, if you've used this yourself, maybe in your workplace, I would wholeheartedly love the feedback, because it's something that I've been toying with for a while. Myself and Richie just do not have the dedicated man hours to put a video out daily. I know we had a few weeks in the Stadia days where we had content drop every single day for a whole week, and my word, I don't know how we managed that. But we did, probably during lockdown when we had nothing better to do. But it's something I'm toying with. You might see it, so don't be offended if it comes up. I'm hoping it'll be a certain level of quality. If it isn't, I probably won't stick with it, but I'm just trying to do something to crunch those numbers, as they say. But you're not here for that. You're here for me to talk about the news and get into it. And as I said, we've had a busy week. Some big things have been happening. The biggest one of which is the Last of Us multiplayer, or Last of Us Factions, whatever it is referred to as, has been cancelled. And this comes from an update we had from the former director of the Last of Us multiplayer, who works at Naughty Dog. This was an interview with Lance E. Lee. It was on the Lance E. Lee's podcast, and it was Vincent Agwal spoke about the game's ending. And speaking about the game's industry, during when the game launched, during its time, and everything else in between, it seemed to be COVID time. He says, online games saw a boost in plays. He said Sony put a lot of money into online games, including The Last of Us multiplayer. He claims the game was doing really well internally, and the team developed it up to 80% completion. However, he'd go on to explain that all the forces pushed the games industry in 2020, with a reason it started to decline in 2022, 23 and beyond. As people returned to the office, spending reduced, all the money that went into the industry was not able to be sustained. Because the money was being pulled out, they had to collapse the spending. It basically collapsed, is what he said. The Last of Us multiplayer was one of those such casualties. He doubles down on saying a decision had to be made to make this game, or to make the next game that Neil Druckmann was directing, who was the president of the company, or is the president of the company, I should say. So kind of naturally you can understand what happened there. They sided with Neil, it would appear. Even though The Last of Us is Neil's baby, you can imagine the long-term impact it had. He goes on to say, they had to pick a game which was the soul and bread and butter of the studio, rather than this experimental game that I was working on. I believe it was going to be really big, but unfortunately it couldn't see the light of day. And he goes on to describe it as a devastating moment, as they spent 7 years working on the cancelled project. It was soul-crushing to find out it was getting cancelled. Not only that, he found out 24 hours before that was announced to the public. So you got to remember, Neil Druckmann was on stage at the Game Awards, I believe, who showed us a little clip and some concept artwork of The Last of Us multiplayer. And then, we kind of went to the next year thinking it's going to come out in the summer. And then I think pretty much just a few months before we'd maybe anticipate hearing something more from Sony, it went. So just like that, and he quotes and saying, he found it just before it was made public, and unfortunately he had to control that messaging, but when asked if it hurt more than being walked out of the office when he was let go, so he's no longer at Naughty Dog, he said it was 10 times more painful that his project was cancelled at 80%. Following the game's cancellation, it seems Naughty Dog have obviously pivoted towards Intergalactic, but it just goes to show you, man, the inner workings and finances of the games industry right now are absolutely wild. And personally, for me, I thoroughly enjoyed The Last of Us Factions. I don't know if it was going to be called Factions for the multiplayer, but if you had a chance to play that, it was the most unique online multiplayer experience that, bear in mind, launched in 2013, so before the whole multiplayer kind of craze that we know today with the likes of Fortnite, PUBG, Overwatch, the Battle Royale saga, all of that stuff. This was in a time when every game on the PS3 360 era came with a multiplayer game basically bundled in and tied in with it. Your likes of your Killzone, your Resistance, they all came with like a shooter with your traditional capture the flag, team deathmatch, whatever it was. And for those who hadn't played Factions, what made it quite unique is your multiplayer took place over a season, essentially. And within that season, you had a group of survivors who were basically part and parcel of your kind of crew. And you had to scavenge just like you do in the campaign, but it was all online multiplayer. So you had to work your way around the map gradually, collecting scrap, collecting bottles, collecting ammunition. And if you stayed in one place, it didn't really work out because you didn't acquire ammunition or bullets or armor or anything like that. So you had to keep moving. So it was quite a decent system. The levels took obviously assets from the main game, so it was kind of familiar zones and familiar areas from the world of The Last of Us, but expanded out a little bit. It's always interesting when you see multiplayer games pulled from single-player campaigns. But yeah, going in, crafting, doing your different teams, and what would happen is if you got a victory within the main campaign, your group of survivors, not that you ever met the survivors, but your group of survivors would get bigger. And if you lost the multiplayer games, they would lose survivors through like infection or death or being murdered or whatever it would be. So you essentially had to protect your faction. And it was quite a unique twist because it played out over several months. And I remember at the time, actually, you could link it with your Facebook page, of all things. So what would happen is when the survivors in your group would pop up, it would say your friend's name from survivors. So I remember being on it thinking, like, watching my friends be killed within my game, and it would say, like, Rob, Richie have been killed or been lost, or they may be unwell. So you have to go out into your next multiplayer match and do well, otherwise your real-world friends' names tied into the game would pass away. And die. But yeah, it was really unique. It had some interesting mechanics with like the listening mode would be limited, but just that kind of grounded element that the Last of Us brought was fantastic. And remember what Naughty Dog had kind of spoke about ahead of the official announcement, and Neil Druckmann, what he'd said on stage, was along the lines of like, we're going to take everything Naughty Dog does great, we're going to take all the stuff around the story that you know and love so well, and we're going to put it into a multiplayer game. So I had really high hopes that Naughty Dog were not necessarily going to revolutionize the way multiplayer worked, but the way they've developed their characters across Uncharted and The Last of Us as a series, and really elevated storytelling and character in games. I was really hoping for a multiplayer game where it wasn't just team deathmatch, capture the flag. It had just a deeper meaning, so you could almost see how they would play it out with an event maybe happens in the world, you have a character, or you maybe select from a few characters, and they all play into some kind of narrative thread over the course of 10, 20, 30, 40 multiplayer games. And then eventually you might have some conclusion. It wouldn't just always be about gear and loot, and it certainly wouldn't be about skins. Although you can get some outfits and stuff in The Last of Us, it wouldn't be about kind of your bright pink neon rave skins that you get in Fortnite and stuff. But just to see like maybe a open world or semi-open world Seattle, different battle zones, you'd probably have a social hub you'd have to go back to get your gear and stuff like that. But just it's a shame that the director here is saying it got to 80% completed. And I know we had Discord, and I know people are going to talk about and bring up Discord, and Discord was a failure. Remember, it reviewed quite well. It reviewed around the sixes and sevens, which isn't a bad game by any stretch, but it still suffered, and it got cancelled. They got the refunds, and it is what it is. But in terms of putting Naughty Dog's, I think, credentials on the line, it just really, really pains me that we're in a world where we haven't had a new game from them. And I say new game, I don't mean the remasters. I don't mean The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2. But a genuinely new game since 2017, when we got Uncharted Lost Legacy, which was the DLC spin-off from number 4. And that blows my mind that we're 9 years out from a Naughty Dog game. And Intergalactic, I'm sure Intergalactic is going to be phenomenal. I'm seriously looking forward to Intergalactic. I think it's going to be stellar. It's going to be 10 out of 10. Masterpiece, the characters and stuff, the gameplay. I know it's going to be fun because Naughty Dog have never let me down. Guess what? Crash Bandicoot was an amazing series. It was the mascot of the PlayStation 1 era. Jak and Daxter, amazing characters, platforming game for the PS2 era. Then we got the Uncharted trilogy and the other Uncharted games, of course. And then we got The Last of Us. So they've not really let us down. And I know The Last of Us Part 2 gets its criticisms for its quote-unquote wokeness. But realistic, and some of the decisions that they did within that, of course, we can always talk about. But the fact that we've had to wait nearly a decade, and the PlayStation 5 is 6 years old, and we're yet to see PlayStation's premium developer put out a game, blows my mind. And bear in mind, in the PS3 era, we got Uncharted 1, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, The Last of Us, all on one platform, spanning 2008 through till 2013. We got 4 games from this developer. At that cadence, we could have had, if the rate kept going at that stage, 8 games from Naughty Dog right now across PS4 to PS5, and yet we haven't had one. and the multiplayer's gone, and I think the multiplayer would have been a nice tie-over for that. But to think we sit here and nothing's happened and the multiplayer was cancelled at such a late phase, and it goes back to the point of, yes, Concord's failings, and we're seeing Marathon struggle a little bit right now, and everything else in between in just the world. I'm under the impression that I think the name of The Last of Us, tied in with obviously the TV series doing quite well initially, and Naughty Dog's backing behind it, I think it would have done okay for PlayStation. I don't think it would have done stellar numbers. I don't think it would have took off and gone meteoric. And again, there is that understanding that the development time required for these games, these live service games, is huge. And they'd have to change the staff, and all the staff who were maybe there to work on narrative story play games are all of a sudden doing patches and updates and game balancing for a live service title that just isn't their bread and butter, as he says in the article. But 80%, man, that's a lot of money to just throw away. If you had 80% of anything good, you wouldn't just throw it away without some elements of salvage, right? You wouldn't get rid of a bank account with 80% money in. You wouldn't chuck away 80% of a cake. You wouldn't get rid of your car. There's like just so many examples, and to think it was 20% from being finished in, I mean, arguably it should have been ready to go just based on the time frame. I think people thought it was going to be out that summer, and instead it got cancelled. But we've seen what Sony have done since then. They've closed Blue Point. They closed last week, what was it, Dark Outlaw Games. So they are no stranger to making cutthroat decisions. Again, they cancelled Concord and refunded everyone and totally wiped it off the face of the earth. I have a sealed copy on the shelf behind me waiting for that moment that its value shoots through the roof. But more importantly, it's a piece of PlayStation history that I want in my collection, and it's only going to become rarer and rarer as time goes on. But, yeah, it just sucks. When I look at, I mean, anyone watching on YouTube will see the Last of Us Part 2 gameplay footage now, and I know this is the campaign, it's single player, but this is the same thing that Factions was. You sneak around, you get your gear, you take bad guys out, or other people online who I guess are always going to be the bad guys. You team up, you'd craft something, and you'd avoid the clickers and the zombies and stuff. And it could have been such a good little mini open world of maybe the infected were around, and you could have had raid type things but with a bloater. And instead we don't get anything. And I guess another story that just follows on from that, folks, is Naughty Dog's one of Naughty Dog's other creative directors, not the one who's been laid off, but the one who still works for them. He's got a lot of fans thinking Uncharted 5 is on the way. His creative, this is Sean Eskeg, I want to say his name's pronounced as. He posted a picture of himself in Trinidad and Tobago recently, and he teased with the title saying research. And this has got everyone like scrambling thinking that it's Uncharted 5. Now, this probably does go to a little bit of emphasis, because we know Sean's working on the game. We know he's a director, and it's not Neil Druckmann's game. The Uncharted series, of course, has been dormant, as I've said, since Lost Legacy, which Lost Legacy, the DLC, is what he was directing. Neil Druckmann went off to work on The Last of Us Part 2. So, yes, Uncharted Lost Legacy was DLC that then got spun out into its own game. Personally, I thought it was fantastic. For an 8 to 10 hour Uncharted experience, it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I didn't mind Chloe and Nadine's story. I thought getting away from Nathan Drake was a nice little refresh moment, but more than anything, it proved you don't need Nate as a main protagonist. As much as I love him, and would I take another game with him at the forefront? Absolutely. But they didn't need him to make a fun, enjoyable game, and that's because Naughty Dog's gameplay is superb. The graphics are superb. The storyline, storytelling, and character are usually superb. So the fact that this guy's out taking pictures of cannons from a fort overlooking Trinidad and Tobago, very Uncharted-esque, very historic with its British foundations and its colonialism. But again, him being the previous game director, we know he's working on a game. He's been working on it for about 3 years behind the scenes now. We know the bulk of the team has pivoted to working on Intergalactic. But yeah, we know there's a game in the works. There's been a long rumour that there was a spin-off studio called Sony San Diego, or titled, because that's where it's rumoured to be located, in San Diego, which is not too far from Santa Monica, where Naughty Dog are based. So who knows? Like, again, they do such a good job of keeping this under wraps. Obviously, The Last of Us 2 leaked just before launch, but it's no surprise. Said it's been 9 years, and it's that franchise that PlayStation keep going back to it. Nathan Drake and Uncharted is still very much at the forefront of PlayStation marketing. We see it on all the marketing adverts. He was in Astrobot quite predominantly. And I think it's been so long now, it's probably about the right time we see something new. So why not? Why not? That's what I say. Why not? Why not give us some more Uncharted? Why not give us Intergalactic? And you know what? Go back to do The Last of Us Part 3 at some point as well, which I've no doubt they will. But speaking of going back, my next story of the week is Xbox finally announced their showcase for 2026. And this is going to come in the form of a special split, which is usually they do this where they do their initial showcase in the June time, and then they have kind of like the back end, the back half an hour, 40 minutes is to something else. We had it previously with Starfield and what was last year's? I can't remember what last year's was off the top of my head. There's definitely a Starfield one. Was it Forza? No, it can't be Forza. Either way, I'll get to it. Xbox Showcase has been confirmed. It's coming June the 7th. And in the UK, at the respectable time of 6 p.m. UK time. So we don't get shafted like we do by Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. But yeah, as previous years, it's going to be a double header. So the fest is going to be your typical showcase. We'll get some announcements, gameplay, reveals no doubt, and then the second half is going to focus on Gears of War E-Day, which is going to be the upcoming game that people are expecting to come this year, with in line with Xbox's 25th anniversary. Obviously, big, massive shake-up and big change at Xbox in terms of Phil Spencer leaving, even though he's still there in a consultancy role. It is their anniversary year. They've announced Project Helix, which is the next hardware iteration, which is going to be a hybrid console PC. What that looks like, who knows? But we know Xbox have got a lot to show off. We know they usually do. Things we're expecting, no doubt. We've probably got Playground Games. They're going to be showing off Forza Horizon 6. We know it's coming to all platforms this May. Then it's going to be arriving on PlayStation later in the year, probably Christmas time sometime. You've got Fable from Playground as well. I think that's going to have a big showcase because it must be getting close now, Fable. Absolutely. They've teased it enough. It needs to happen. Bethesda, you've got Starfield obviously just imminently about to launch on PS5, but what that looks like, does it get a big 2.0 update? Do we hear about Elder Scrolls? Do we hear about another Fallout, or maybe DLC as per usual for Fallout 76? Who knows what's going on with that one? Obsidian, obviously they just had a crackingly busy year last year with Avowed, which has now also gone multi-platform. The Outer Worlds 2. They've got Grounded 2, which I do think is still in beta technically. So I think they probably deserve, out of everyone, they deserve a rest for the time being. And of course, we've got, Halo Studios? Or formerly 343 Studios. Again, it's the 25th anniversary year. So surely you wouldn't put it past Xbox showcasing something Halo. I don't think we'd get Halo and Gears in the same year. Everything that's gone on with Halo since Halo Infinite, obviously we've had Master Chief Collection. We know we're getting Halo Campaign Evolved, which is the remaster reboot. But I think outside of maybe getting another trailer and an official locked-in launch date for Campaign Evolved, which is still an utterly terrible name, do we see anything new? Maybe a tease for a new game, but I think with Halo they need to just kind of let Campaign Evolve breathe. Let's see how it does multi-platform. I think Xbox, quite frankly, could go back to being exclusivity on console. I don't know what Asher Sharman's got planned, but who knows? As I said, the Coalition, they are going to be there in terms of Gears of War E-Day. They're going to have the whole second half of it, so expect plenty of Gears stuff. Blizzard Entertainment, they've obviously got Overwatch, Diablo 4, World of Warcraft. I could see just expansions in DLC for plenty of them. Overwatch is, of course, back, quote-unquote, now as well, so who knows what we're going to do on that one from that front. The big one, I guess, for me that we've not really heard much from, but we should, is possibly going to be Blade. And I say that knowing fine well that if you go on the channel, PlayStation Retro Hunt for Guild members, the Blade PlayStation, the PlayStation 1 Wesley Snipes tie-in game, Blade, is up on the channel, but I digress. Blade from Arcane Studios. Obviously, they got rid of Arcane, the one who made Redfall, the terrible other vampire game. Arcane Austin, sorry. Yeah, this is Arcane Lyon in France. So these are the folks who did Deathloop, the game of the year winning, Game of the Year award winning Deathloop studio. Apologies for the pause. I've got a dry throat for talking for the last half an hour. Blade, yeah, this is from Arcane Lyon. It was announced summer 2024, so we've had a while. And obviously since then, Blade, spoilers, has shown up in a certain Marvel movie already. We know we've got some kind of involvement, we think, from Blade in the MCU. But they said it's a single-player game. Who knows what it's going to look like? But I'm excited for it. Again, as someone who's enjoyed the Blade movies in the past, I enjoyed what I saw of Deathloop. Not quite for me, because it was a Bethesda first-person shooter kind of thing. But again, it won loads of awards. So the fact that they're putting a game out there where you're a vampire hunter, I just hope it's not third person. Don't ruin it for me where I don't see our sexy protagonist killing vampires, because it's all just hack and slash. But who knows? Who knows? Who else we got? We've got id, who put out Doom the Dark Ages recently. Could we see something else from them? I don't think so. I think they would very much just... I think they need to move on from Doom. I think that's for certain. I think Doom reboot trilogy's had its time. I think it's worthwhile. As good as all them games are reviewed, I don't think they've necessarily moved the needle all too much. So I think they need to pivot and move on. I don't think we see anything from Machine Games either. Indiana Jones just went multi-platform this year. They did the DLC, The Order of the Giants. Fantastic game. I would absolutely take another trilogy of those Indiana Jones games. They are the best Indiana Jones movies since The Last Crusade, with Sean Connery and Harrison Ford back in the day. And yeah, it was truly good. I enjoyed it thoroughly on Xbox. I played through it on PlayStation, got the Platinum Trophy, did the DLC. Amazing game. Definitely in my wheelhouse. Look forward to seeing more of that. But yeah, I can't really see them showing up. I know there's rumours. There's rumours, of course, of them going back to Wolfenstein 3 with a third one, and I can see that happening. I can see a new Wolfenstein game coming, but not anytime soon. Unless they've somehow upscaled the studio and split the studio up. I think Indiana Jones had all of their attention, and you could see it in the output. But yeah, it was reported at the beginning of this year that Wolfenstein 3 is in development, so I can see that. We won't count Wolfenstein Youngblood, that weird co-op twin game. We won't talk about that one. Of course, you are going to get your typical annualized Call of Duty input. That's going to happen. Although I do feel like last year's wasn't very well received. 2025's Black Ops 6 and then straight into Black Ops 7. Seemed like a bit of a miss doing back-to-back Black Ops games. They've done so well with the cadence of alternating between Black Ops and then to Modern Warfare and then World at War or whatever their other kind of third triple rotation point is. But yeah, it wouldn't be a suggest to think that this one's maybe back to Infinity Ward now, I want to say. Black Ops 7 was Treyarch and Raven, so it must be Infinity Ward's turn, which usually, from my memory, Infinity Ward are the better ones, possibly. Who knows, maybe. But either way, Raven tend to focus on the campaign. Same with like Sledgehammer, everything else in between. As I mentioned right at the beginning of the show, South of Midnight, Compulsion Games, they put out We Happy Few in 2018. They put out South of Midnight 2025. And then we've just had the PS5 release. I don't think they're going to be here either. I think outside of maybe... Nah, see, it's too late for even any DLC for South of Midnight. I don't know. Double Fine. It's one of those. Again, we got Psychonauts 2 way back in 2021 when they were acquired. But then we had Keeper, came out late last year with the Crazy Sentient Lighthouse. Fun game. Don't think it moved the needle at all for anyone. Not that a Double Fine game generally would. They tend to be smaller scale ones. We've got Kiln coming out, I want to say this month, maybe back end of this month, Kiln. Again, another small title, so who knows what's going on with them. We've got Ninja Theory. We had Hellblade 2 in May 2024. Again, I enjoyed it. Didn't really move the needle, though. I think people were expecting a lot more from the sequel to Hellblade. Outside of stunning visuals and amazing sound design, the second felt like more of the same, if not less. I was personally expecting way more combat, way more open world elements, and we just really, really didn't get it from Ninja Theory. So I think that's one of those studios where, as a worrying point, if it was a PlayStation studio, I think they'd have been closed down now. I really do. Or if they were not an indie studio, but like other company other than Xbox, I'd be worried about them. Who else have we got? Rare, who I guess are just Sea of Thieves now. There was the Everwild reboot that I think got cancelled, I want to say. I don't really know that much about Everwild, but aside from Sea of Thieves, yeah, I think Rare, I think they're overdue showing up. I think it's about time. I mean, Rare have had like great games over the years, but we're definitely in a place where, like, I'd like to think they wouldn't just commit to Sea of Thieves, surely. That's not what they're just going to do. They're just going to sit back and rest on the laurels with Sea of Thieves. As good as it seems to be, I'd hate to think that a famed studio like Rare does that. I don't know what Microsoft want to do with them, though, in all honesty. Like, they have IP now in form. I mean, it would be a full circle moment, wouldn't it, if Rare, known for the likes of like Banjo-Kazooie and stuff, Microsoft now have the Crash Bandicoot IP, the Spyro the Dragon IP. It would be wild if Rare went full circle and ended up making a Crash Bandicoot game. Wouldn't it? That'd be crazy. But I don't think that. I think they'd probably more likely do... I mean, I feel like a Banjo-Kazooie game is kind of like behind them now. Like, not beneath them, but just the team's grown out, expanded so much. I think that would be actually a lesser game to put them on, unless they wanted to expand the scope of that even more. But yeah, I think with the success of that and Sea of Thieves, I think Thebes, the Sea of Thebes game, the Greek spin-off. But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see what Rare are up to. But that actually does bring me on to my next point. I do think that Toys for Bob, who were an Xbox studio game as part of the Activision Blizzard King deal, and then they got shut down, but then, I guess shut down. They got shut down, then spun off into going private, and then went independent in a kind of like weird twist of business deals. I could see them being at this showcase. They've teased and tweeted out about Spyro. I mean, this is the studio that did the Spyro Reignited trilogy, but these are also the studio that every time they tweet or make a post, it's in the colour purple. So I think that's them being cheeky and teasing what they can do. And I do think we had Crash, not from them, but we had Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, which was the original one. And then we had Crash Team Racing, Nitro Fueled, come out, which was the remaster of Crash Team Racing. Then we had Spyro in between. And, you know what, give him his dues. I think Spyro deserves a new entry, because we've had Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Quite literally, great name still. But I think Spyro deserves a new standalone title. It's been a long time. I think there's still a hankering for it. We've seen with the likes of Astrobot and the success it's had, and Donkey Kong Bonanza and the success Nintendo always have with their 3D platformers. There is a hunger out there, not only for nostalgia, but just puzzle platformers with a mascot game. Feed the family, feed the younger audiences, give them something to latch onto. My daughter, this past week, we've been playing Astrobot together. And don't get me wrong, I do the majority of it, but she plays the bits where you can't really die, and you just run around, bump into things. She likes to make him dance. She likes to make him jump up and down. She thinks he's funny and cute. She laughs at some of the things he does when he bumps his head, or a little goblin thing runs into him when he falls off the edge of the map. She thinks it's hilarious, and she's got such an affinity for Astrobot. She likes Spyro, the little purple dragon. What? And she's a 3-year-old. She's a 3-year-old, and she sees him and just goes, "Oh, it's Spyro." So, yeah, Toys for Bob. I think Toys for Bob and most likely Spyro could be a big pop for Microsoft at this event. I think we'll see something from there. Mojang announced, well, not Mojang, but in the Minecraft world, if we look at the success of the movie, and we've just had Minecraft Dungeons 2 announced, I could see us seeing a little bit more of that. I do think we see a lot from In Exile with Clockwork Revolution, I want to say that one was called. We saw a trailer for that last year. Clockwork Revolution. I think it's about time we saw a little bit more of that. It had a really good, I think, initial trailer. A lot of people saw it as a BioShock Infinite kind of approach, and I think people looked at that and thought, I'm ready for that right now. We've got Judas, of course, coming from ex-BioWare devs, but that seemingly was ready to launch. Then it's gone radio silent and fell off a map now. But Clockwork Revolution, to me, just absolutely reeks of BioShock Infinite, but in a good way, where I think there's always that allure of the kind of steampunk world, and I do think it'll benefit from that. We probably will see State of Decay 3. There's been lots of stuff teased. It's been about, 5-6 years since it was announced. I think it's definitely overdue. Definitely has to get a launch date on it. And then 1010 we know have been downsized, so they're not going to be working on anything anytime soon. They're just going to be assisting on Forza Horizon. And then I think that's about it, right? Outside of any second-party announcements, I think that's Microsoft pretty much covered. You're going to get the big ones. You're going to get everything in between. You're going to get some probably little indie titles. But for the most part, I think people are expecting to see Halo Campaign Evolved, maybe with multiplayer. We're definitely going to see a big chunk of the showcase, of course, dedicated to Gears of War E-Day. We know that. Do we maybe get an announcement that Gears of War 2 gets a remaster, similar to the Gears of War, what was it called? Reloaded, I think, if memory serves, the one that got the PlayStation release. But then, yeah, Microsoft between Forza, it's that thing where they have new IP, but they don't tend to sell well, and this is because the Game Pass model skews the numbers so big. But they are multi-platform now, so remember Xbox had about 7 titles on PlayStation that were the biggest titles of last year, so as a publisher, they're doing fantastically well. As a hardware manufacturer, that's a whole other world. So I guess the final question is, do we see hardware revealed? Aside from all the games, do we see what the next Xbox is? Do we see Asher on stage actively promoting it? Either way, I'm excited. I always enjoy the showcases. They're always really, really good and they show off quite a lot. But moving on away from Xbox, we'll pivot over to Nintendo, and the Super Mario Galaxy movie is out. I'm yet to see it because I have a 3-year-old who doesn't go to the cinema yet. However, at the same time, as a 36-year-old bloke going on my own to see Super Mario, a bit weird. So anyway, let's have a look at the reviews. It seems to be, let's say, mixed out there. From what I've gathered, if you are a fan of Super Mario, you're going to thoroughly enjoy the game. If you are, I guess, a movie reviewer, probably not so much. It's sitting with a 41% on the tomato-o-meter right now, with an audience popcorn-o-meter of 89%, which is where I would always lean. I always think the critics get too far in the weeds with trying to critique and scrutinise the movie and all these different elements. If it's got too much of this and too much of that, and it's just it's a movie for kids. It's not made for adults. It's for the mainstream audience. It's going to have a lot of colour, a lot of bright noises, a couple of set pieces, a loose story throughout, a couple of gags, physical humour jokes. Is it going to look gorgeous? Absolutely. But looking at a few of the reviews here from some critics, Christopher Lloyd, the Christopher Lloyd said, "It's a crazy movie, Marty." No, he doesn't really. He says, this is from the Film Yap, he says, "Fast, goofy, visually imaginative, and just a big glob of sheer fun for kids and younger teens." He gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Let's look at the top critics, see what they say. Do the top critics get a bit more critical, perhaps? Carl Smith at the Wall Street Journal says, "There's almost nothing in Galaxy that even rises to the level of an attempted gag, and the movie is notably weaker than the first, which was just barely watchable." So, Carl Smith at the Wall Street Journal, which I wouldn't look for my movie reviews from the Wall Street Journal. They don't seem to be the most in tune to movies. The fact they say is the first one was barely watchable, and I enjoyed the first one, makes me think he's already going into the second review with an axe to grind. Maybe not so much an axe to grind, like a metaphoric like disdain for it. Whereas it's one of those things, isn't it? It's like you're always going to compare it. What have we got? Wall Street Journal. Let's look for another one that I actually recognise. The Washington Post. Gene Park. So Gene Park's actually quite up there because he is on a Nintendo podcast with Last Stand Media. He says 2.5 out of 4. The secret to Mario's infinite lives is that we keep giving them to him. So I guess he's given a good tomato, but nothing more there. Empire Magazine gave it a 2 out of 5. They said the moments of fan service might keep the hardcore happy, but for everyone else over the age of 5, it's just a succession of loud, bright things happening without any real point. So it sounds like the story in this one's a little bit weaker. I've heard Mario seems a bit lost in his own movie. What I would love, though, is your opinions if you've seen it in the comments below, because I would take your opinions over these critics any day. Looking at the verified audience reviews, some of the top ones say 4 out of 5 stars. If you're a Mario fan, this movie hits all the notes. You'll want it to. Daniel S, give it a 5 out of 5, says funny movie for the family. Ethan says 4.5. Was great to see all the new and old characters in the latest adventure. It was so much fun. I had tears of joy. Chelsea, 4.5. Great movie, childhood memories. My son loved it. Great movie. My 10-year-old loved it, and so did I. Michael B, not Jordan, said, if you love Nintendo and gaming, you'll love this movie. Tons of references, all the while giving you a beautifully animated experience. So I think that's that thing. People kind of getting caught up on what it's about, what it does, what's the story it's trying to tell. I think realistically, if you think all the kids you loved as a child, all the movies you loved as a child, they're not great movies. I just spent this evening watching Jurassic Park 3 with my wife. Is it a great movie? No. Are a lot of the movies in the Jurassic Park / World series great movies? Beyond the original? Probably not. But you know what? They're blockbuster popcorn flicks with okay graphics, fun storylines, and they're popcorn movies. That's what this is. Go watch those movies again. Go enjoy them. Just have fun, smile. Don't critique it too much. That's what the movies are all about. Getting together as a family with your friends and just having a good time. So don't read too much into it. But regardless of that, it's made $34 million on its opening, even against unfavourable reviews. Again, it's huge. The first one grossed over $1 billion. It's going to be like Minecraft. The Minecraft movie was apparently utter crap. I've never seen it yet, but over $1 billion. So you know what? It's going to make money. Jack Black's going to be in the mall. He's going to sing songs, and they're going to print money and they're going to put them in theme parks. Have fun. It's the stuff you love getting its chance. Just like everyone who critiques The Last of Us, Fallout, any gaming thing, Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, whatever that comes over, it's like, it doesn't matter. Just enjoy it. Enjoy it. That's what it's for. It's what entertainment's for. And speaking of entertainment, folks, my next story of the week is the long-running rumour that's circulating that Warhorse Studios are going to be going to Middle-earth, which are the guys who developed Kingdom Come Deliverance. Don't know why I paused so much on that. Sorry, audio listeners. But the ongoing rumour now is that Tomb Raider's developer Crystal Dynamics are also said to be working on the Lord of the Rings game. So within the space of a week, we've had a rumour that the Lord of the Rings game is at Warhorse. Insider Gaming reported exclusively that development at Embracer Group began in 2025. And we should point out that the Embracer Group do own the rights to the Lord of the Rings gaming. And we know we've got new movies on the way. Nothing to do with them, but we've got The Hunt for Gollum and something else beyond that, which is with Stephen Colbert and Peter Jackson and Andy Serkis are all involved. But, sorry. Those close developments said on 31st of March, the site revealed the main developer on at least one Lord of the Rings project could also be Crystal Dynamics. This is the studio known for its Tomb Raider series, which, at the time of writing, obviously Crystal Dynamics are deep in the Legacy of Atlantis remake, and they've also got Tomb Raider Catalyst set for 2027. So they're a bit busy. So to say that they're suddenly working on a Lord of the Rings game is a bit surprising. However, do I trust Crystal Dynamics? Absolutely. They kind of fit the DNA of what we've seen kind of in things like the Shadow of Mordor game, Shadow of War game. I mean, personally, I always say if they could somehow wrangle the rights to it, just remake or recreate, like remaster, I guess, the EA movie tie-ins. Give us a true Fellowship of the Ring game where we follow the beats of the movie And in the combat sections, we just get to play the combat sections out like a video game, and then do another cutscene, show me little clippets, and then let me play the next scene. Let me fight the ring wraiths. Then let me play as Arwen running away from in like a little solo mission where I get to outrun the ring wraiths on horseback, and I get to end the mission by the river coming by. Let me fight with Aragorn on Amon Hen. Like, let me do all those like intricate details. But anytime there's any kind of fighting or battle narrative, let me play it out. That's what made those games so damn good. Or on the flip side, go RTS and give me a Battle for Middle-earth 2. I don't think that this is. Warhorse Studio, of course, these are the ones who are known for the fantastically reviewed Kingdom Come Deliverance. What they would do to it, I don't know. But you know what? They've been hiring workers to recruit up for apparently this. It's a mysterious Unreal Engine-powered game. And now we've just got this rumours that Embracer are like dishing the IP, which again, I guess the IP, it's big enough. It's underutilized massively, but in a world where we don't have Battle for Middle-earth, what would you do? But either way, Insider Gaming, they're not shooting down any of the rumours about Warhorse. Then we know Embracer is teased the Lord of the Rings games in the past. We know the CEO spoke about it and said, why wouldn't we? I think he said it was something along the lines of like lean on and utilise, and it read really stinky of we're going to basically leech the Lord of the Rings fans for everything we possibly can. But in a world where franchises continue and stuff lives on, as we've just said about the Mario movie and everything, you know what? I would happily take Warhorse to make something of their own in the Middle-earth world. And I would take Crystal Dynamics to do something unique in the Middle-earth world of their own right. So anything's going to be better than the Gollum game. Let's face it, anything's going to be better than the Gollum game. So we'll take it. Would I love another RTS game in the vein of Battle for Middle-earth? Absolutely. Are we going to see it? Probably not. We got what was it? The Mines of Moria game? Rise of Moria? I can't remember. I've played it. I've got it. I was given a free code by the devs. Why can't I think of the name? Return to Moria. That was the one. Return to Moria. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see from a Lord of the Rings game. If it is Crystal Dynamics, could they do it justice in the Tomb Raider vein? Or would you rather give it a Warhorse with the Kingdom Come Deliverance ilk and see what they can pull together? Either way, it's going to be a busy world, a busy life to be a Lord of the Rings fan. Fun, fun, fun. You know who cannot buy Lord of the Rings, though? Our next story, and that is Disney are rumoured to be interested in buying Fortnite developer and maker and owner of Unreal Engine, Epic Games. This article comes from Eurogamer, and this is in the story that even though they've recently just laid off 1,000 people, there's now talk of the entertainment giant Disney are looking to buy it. This is a report from Alex Heath over at The Verge. He suggested on a recent podcast appearance that he knows for a fact there are senior executives in Disney who want them to buy Epic and they're just waiting for that right moment. The reality might be more complex though, as he added there are people near the top who think it's a bad idea. We do know Disney and Epic have this collaboration where they want to make everything in this game world where pretty much like Disneyland but within Fortnite. So Pixar, Star Wars, Avatar, Marvel, they're all going to be kind of embodied in some kind of virtual online metaverse reality. We know that. We've seen that. I don't know what that really looks like in truth. If I was on the Disney board, I think actually investing in gaming right now outside of just partnerships is probably a bad idea. Would you be able to buy them for cheap? Yes, but then there's the licensing stuff you get yourself into with Unreal, and as Tim Sweeney said in last week's statement when they laid off 1,000 members of staff, what does that mean? What does that look like? What are we going to do with that? It's a difficult world. I don't think Disney investing in it would get the same return that they hope for. Like, yes, they will be able to control the narrative. Yes, they could put all of their IP on the table, and we know they print money with they splash Star Wars characters on things, they splash Marvel heroes on things, but I do think the general audience is kind of beginning to wean off that a little bit. I think even just Tim Sweeney's example of Fortnite degrading a little bit, like people move on from things and you have to keep it fresh and you have to keep it different. And I don't think Disney necessarily being at the helm of that would help in the long run. I think Epic being independent and doing their own things and using that Fortnite money to invest in bigger games. I think Fortnite and Epic's biggest mistake is they've committed wholeheartedly to Fortnite. They've built new games in Fortnite. They've closed new games down at Fortnite. But they've done very little with those millions and millions to put out new stuff. Like, Fortnite's been huge for 8-9 years now. They've not really done any spin-off studio stuff. Like, credit where credit's due, Krafton made the PUBG money, and then they've gone off and they've invested in Callisto Protocol. They've acquired Tango Gameworks, who made Hi-Fi Rush and Ghostwire Tokyo. So they're investing in other things beyond just PUBG, and they're trying to thread narratives and put other things out there in different veins, whereas Fortnite and Epic seem to be content on getting everything locked into that Fortnite universe. But does that pay dividends in the end? Former CEO executive and co-CEO at Candle Media told Epic or some other video game assets would be a great addition to the Walt Disney Company. Following Josh D'Amaro's takeover of the CEO role, obviously he's new, so again, usually when you come in new, you want to kind of make a big push. You want to show investment. You want to back the company. Go, look what we're doing. Investing in Fortnite would have been seen as a good move, I think, a couple of years ago. But then everything Tim Sweeney said in a statement last week either could be a really tactical ploy to put Disney off buying you and keeping it all in-house, or he's telling the truth and Disney are like, nah, we can't be investing in this because it's not going to work. But then it goes back to the actual baffling fact me and Richie spoke about last week, is how a company that makes millions and millions can somehow be hemorrhaging money. Does that just come down to bad business practices? I don't know. But we still get Marvel tie-ins, we get Star Wars stuff drops, we get Simpsons stuff drop. Fortnite has everything. I don't know what the current player base is for it, but we know they keep putting stuff out. We know the partnerships are there. You can make games within Fortnite now. I think there was a Disneyland game that came out, and it's just that, I guess, that pop culture universe of, yeah, people love these IPs, and kids love these IPs, and kids love Disneyland, and adults love Disneyland. Like, I love Disneyland. And if I was a kid now, I think it'd be amazing, but it's like almost like, when is it too much? And I think if I was a Disney exec, I'd definitely be concerned that it's too much right now. Especially so you've got to imagine, to acquire Epic, you must be talking more than Star Wars money, which is wild. Remember how much Disney paid for Star Wars and Marvel, and then Xbox shit all over the bed with it when they acquired Activision Blizzard King for, what, 74 billion or whatever it was. They got Star Wars for like a couple $100 million, right? Like 500, 600 million. Sony got Insomniac for 300 million to make Spider-Man games, and then, yeah, Xbox out of nowhere, we're just going to spend 700 times more to acquire Activision Blizzard King, which just shows you how much maybe gaming is worth more than other industries in entertainment. But who knows? It's crazy world. A couple of last minute updates for you all, folks. We've got the PlayStation blog has dropped. We've got April's monthly games have been announced. We've got Lords of the Fallen, Tomb Raider 1, 2, 3 Remastered, which I am happy about because I was almost going to buy it last week with all the kind of Tomb Raider news going around. I think Sophie Turner just injured herself shooting the TV series. But yeah, April 7th, you get Lords of the Fallen, which is the kind of mini reboot game. Well reviewed, never played it myself. You've got Tomb Raider 1, 2, 3 Remastered, which is the original 3 games. As I said, remastered. That's just got one of the patch updates, I think. New outfits and stuff have been added. Sword Art Online, Fractured Daydream. Never heard of it before in my life. Don't even know what it looks like. It looks like a gotcha Xenoverse, what is it, Hoyoverse game. No interest. And of course, if you haven't done so already, you've probably missed your chance to claim March's games too. But that's the blog post. To round up every episode of the GamerGuild Podcast by looking at this day in video game history. I'm recording this solo on the 4th of April 2026. Looking at this date, actually I'll show you the website we usually use because you don't normally get to see it. This day in video game history, we'll look back, see what there is. Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles, released 26 years ago today in the year 2000. That's a great game. It's actually a terrible game, but it's a great game for a Star Wars fan and someone who loved Star Wars games, getting to play multiplayer and play as Plo Koon with an orange lightsaber. And similar to the Lord of the Rings reference I made earlier on, just going in and hacking, slashing stuff in the Star Wars universe, always going to be fun. Nothing else great. PC 1 year ago, Sex Note apparently came out. April 5th. Ooh, there's a shout out, that one there. Tropico. The RTS game where you're a general dictator on a tropical island. El Presidente. 25 years ago in 2001. Wow, I love playing Tropico on the PC back in the day. I never played anything beyond 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe even. Never quite played. My brother still plays them. He still enjoys them. But yeah, the first Tropico was brilliant. Got some campaigns coming up. Just take out your opposition. Deal with... You know what? As a kid in 2001, I was 11. So I didn't even understand the kind of the politics of it all, of like, ooh, side with America and you'll get these benefits. Side with Russia, communist Soviet Union, and get these benefits. And the whole like it's basically like SimCity as well, but with like a bit more narrative humor spread throughout. Go play Tropico if you've not played it. 4 years ago, we got Lego the Star Wars Skywalker Saga, just off the back of that Star Wars stories. Quite disappointing myself, but we are going to get Lego Batman, the new one, in a month. I think it's a month and a half's time. And then finally, skipping ahead to April 6th, just to get a couple of days in. Anything good? No, not really. Not really anything there. Minesweeper. I guess that's a big one. Minesweeper on the PC. 34 years ago, 1992, Minesweeper was released. Did I play it on my first ever family computer? Yes. Did I have a clue what I was doing? No, I just clicked around until it blew up and I lost. I never quite understood the maths behind it. I still don't to this day. But you know what? Minesweeper was a cool game for Windows 95. And that brings us and myself to an end for this solo episode of the GamerGuild Podcast. Again, hopefully regularly scheduled programming should be back next week when Richie returns. And I should have probably apologised if you've heard any whistling throughout this whole session. I'm recording using a solo mic for a change rather than the traditional dual mics that myself and Richie use. However, I have been recording this at 11:30 at night on a Saturday, and Storm Dave has hit the UK. It's been fine all day. I actually thought it was a bit underwhelming. And then the last hour or 2 hours, it's cranked up and absolutely battered the side of my house. I've heard whistling, our letterbox has been going. So yeah, apologies if you've sat through the whole episode and thought, what the hell is that noise in the background? It's unbearable. Hopefully my audio gate's been cut out. Hopefully the sound of my voice talking for over an hour has blocked it out. But all in all, thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to go check out the rest of the channel. Do comment down below. If you haven't done so, a good tip, if you could do it to help us out with the algorithm battle that's ongoing, click hype. If you're watching on YouTube, there's an option on mobile and tablets, I think, to click hype. So when you've got your comment section, you can swipe left or right on the comment section, and you hype a video and you basically give it hype points, and that pushes it up the viewership algorithm ladder, and it helps people discover unknown content. I've been doing it on a few videos that I've been watching for channels that I like and think deserve more credit. But yeah, we do appreciate it. Just like our Guild Heroes, if you're a fan of the channel, if you support us extra little bit more from as little as 99p, you get early access to this show, live streams, videos, retro hunt, everything in between, and of course our adoration and love as always. But that's been it for this week's episode of the GamerGuild Podcast. My name's been Chris. You can find me at Arcane Rogue and at GamerGuildTV all the time here on YouTube and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice every Monday 8 a.m. when this show goes live. But that's been it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next week, and as always folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. Goodbye.